Hi, this is Deborah Atkinson, the voice for fitness, and the author of Navigating Fitness After 50, your GPS for choosing programs and professionals you can trust. And the reason you landed here is because you're probably exercising. Maybe you're currently working with a trainer or you have in the past, and you're wondering what are those 7 strategies or those 7 secrets that your trainer has not taught you. And here's why they haven't taught you. It's not that they're keeping it from you necessarily. It's just that the research is new enough. We're compiling it as we go. I am a barely boomer. I turned 50 this year. Happy birthday, me, right? And what I'm noticing is in the last year and a half, the research is just booming. My inbox is full on a daily basis. I don't even have to go out, but organizations and associations that I belong to, I speak to, and I present for are sending out research constantly on gerontology, on psychology of aging, looking at what's happening cognitively, physically, with effects of nutrition, with exercise, with rest, with conditions like arthritis, osteoarthritis. All of that is booming. So it's not that your trainer is keeping secrets from you. It's that they may not know it. They may not have time to read it. And yet I do. So I'm going to give it to you right now. And if this is helpful when we're done, what I hope that you'll do is actually click up here and go to my active aging secrets. The goal of active aging in my book is that you make the choices and you call the shots. However you want to live every day of your life, that you live it to its fullest, and you have the choice to do that. You have the good health to do that. So with that, let's talk. What are those 7 strategies? First of all, 3 of them actually fall under exercise and cardiovascular exercise specifically. So there are 3 types of cardiovascular exercise that you need to be doing. So this first strategy is just cardio exercise. And there's a blanket statement there. A lot of times people will just tell you, well, you need to walk, you need to get started. And that's true. But once you're there, there's more that you can do. And there are 3 things that you should be doing. If you're doing a minimum of 3 days a week of cardiovascular exercise, those 3 days should look very specific. And I'm not going to go into it because we have a short amount of time here to get through a lot of content. The second strategy falls under exercise, and it is weight training. Underweight training, yes, you do need to be doing it. There are 2 types of strength training you need to be doing. You need to be doing some heavy strength training if you really want to help bone density and you really want to develop some lean muscle mass. And you do. I know it's something we're not used to hearing or used to being used to, right? Or comfortable with. Gaining muscle mass? Who wants to gain mass, right? But the idea is, if we're not doing that or holding on to what we've got, we're gaining fat. Period. So if you gain a little bit more lean tissue, you lose body fat, typically. So it's a good formula. So trust me on that one. We need to lift heavy, and we need to lift in a functional way. We have to do both. We can't do one or the other. Don't let anybody talk you into the idea that doing heavier strength training on a machine weight isn't functional. That, when you're 90, is what's going to launch your backside out of a chair. So you need it. That is very functional. So don't twist that word up. The third thing that falls under exercise, third strategy, is mobility. Do you need to touch your toes? I don't know. I don't think so. But you do need to move through full range of motion. You need to be able to lift your arm up comfortably as high as it can go through your range of motion. Maybe you were not born really flexible. Maybe you're tighter, and that's because your muscles might connect onto your joints deeper and further down. Maybe they're not connected up here, but they connect further down. All of that affects our flexibility. So no matter how much you try, you can't maybe get more flexible because you're running into yourself, literally. So your optimal mobility won't match or look like anybody else's, but you need to keep and maintain it. So mobility is a big key to exercising safely and moving safely and pain-free. So if you start there, exercise that maybe sought or seemed painful at one point will be much more comfortable. So there's 3 strategies: the right kind of cardio, the right kind of weight training, and the right kind of getting mobile is what you need. Let's move on to nutrition. So nutrition strategies is another one. Now, I'm drawing a big blanket statement, but a couple of things. Always combining protein and carbohydrates. So protein and carbohydrates together. So eating healthy, but eating fruit alone is sugar. And your body will elevate blood sugar, supply insulin to match that elevated blood sugar, and when that happens, fat metabolism stops, comes to a halt. So even a healthy food doesn't necessarily create a healthy response in your body. You need to know that, and you're going to need some support in a trainer or nutritionist or coach to make those changes, because whatever you've been doing possibly for the last 30 years has created thoughts and habits that will be hard to change. Not that you can't, it's just you're going to need some help getting over those bumps. So the last one is protein. And then I'll leave this alone. There's a lot to say about nutrition, but most of us do not get enough protein. And over the last 30 years of our adult life, if we're now 50 or beyond, we learned bad habits. One of the first things we cut out if we were dieting or cutting back on calories was probably a protein type of a food, because we associated it with a higher fat content and a higher calorie content. Protein is our friend. Carbs are not our enemy, but we need to make sure we have protein, and we have to have adequate protein. And there's a number associated with that. Every one of 3 meals a day that you need to be getting. And if you don't hit it, you're probably muscle wasting, even if you're exercising, and sometimes especially if you are. That's key. So I'm going to move on. So I've given you 3 under exercise. I've given you 1 under nutrition. The next one is sleep. So the sleep strategy says the average between 7 and 9 hours that each of us needs a night. Now you might need 6 and be fine with it. I may need 10 and feel better when I get that. So there really isn't any average. But the key is, in terms of the correlation or the relationship with weight loss or weight maintenance and sleep, those people who got 8.5 hours of sleep had much more success removing weight and keeping it off than those people who had 5.5. So if you are even close to sleep deprivation, and here's how you know: you're in a meeting in the afternoon and you cannot keep your eyes open. You take your kids to a movie and realize that you could fall asleep because the lights are down low. That probably is telling you you're in sleep deprivation all the time, but you're just denying yourself and you're willing yourself not to sleep. You're willing yourself to have exercise, or to do exercise, or to have energy. And that's not necessarily a good sign of health, because there's a cumulative effect. And by the time we're 50 and 60 and 70, there's no way ever we're going to catch up. A nap is not going to do it. So it's important that you start creating better sleep habits so that you can control weight and not have a weight gain if you don't have a problem with it now, or that you will much more easily lose weight and then keep it off if that's where you're at. Okay, so 3 under exercise. The 4th was nutrition. The 5th was sleep. The 6th is stress. So we're going to have it. You've got a heart rate. This is a good thing. And you're going to have stress that comes with it. But it's learning how to cope with that stress, how to take it in, how to let it slide off your shoulders and be able to deal with it and have some peace among the chaos. I have a little poster in my kitchen that says, peace is not, a life without stress. It's learning to, have peace and live tranquilly within the organized chaos that we call life or living. So what is it that does that for you? Laughter on a daily basis. Anymore you can plug in YouTube and listen to the laughing baby. That is a release. I mean, you can't listen to the laughing baby and not laugh unless things are really serious and you are really stressed. People who are quicker to laugh are better employees, better colleagues, and are more resilient. They're more flexible in relationships. So watch for that. And when you find yourself just being stressed enough that you don't laugh as easily as you normally do, use that as a benchmark. Know that you need to do something about it, because that is also going to affect your next strategy that you need to know about, and that is hormones. So with too much stress, cortisol is the stress hormone we all associate with bad things with cortisol. Well, cortisol alone, it should not take the rap. It's when cortisol combines with insulin, which is spurred by too much sugar, And when we're stressed, we want sugar, right? We crave things, typically not carrots. And so we have the insulin response. Then we've created some really poor, we're going to store everything as fat, and stress and the cortisol is going to store it probably in a visceral location, meaning in the belly fat, which is more related to heart disease. So we're combining problems here and making it harder to lose. So the other hormones we have to control, we've talked cortisol, we've talked insulin, are ghrelin, and that is related to sleep. So if you don't sleep enough, the ghrelin hormone monitors basically your hunger, your appetite. So what happens the day after you're sleep deprived, really sleep deprived? So if you notice this, the next day you get up and you're hungrier than usual, it's not that your metabolism is higher because you were awake all night. It's because that you don't sense when you're full and when you're hungry as well, because that ghrelin hormone is out of whack. So without that, you will tend to eat more and therefore store more because you don't necessarily need it any more than you did yesterday. The other hormones we have to talk about, just because it would be inappropriate or inadequate if I didn't, would be estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, the sex hormones, basically. The other one that I'm going to throw in here is DHEA and DHEA-S, a precursor to the sex hormones. If those are off and too low, you also will have problems with your adrenal glands, your energy levels, and storing fat becomes much easier for your body. Your metabolism slows, things are not clicking, and you're just not thinking as sharp. Those strategies are key if you want to maintain weight loss, if you want to maintain your lean, and you feel like suddenly after 50 or as you've approached it, the rules have begun changing. These 7 strategies will help you reverse them. And if you want more details on the specifics of the exercise, on the specifics of nutrition, I want you to click right here when we're done and go to that site, and you will get on the active aging list. So if that sounds good to you, I'll see you on the other side.